The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm so excited to be here on this fabulous Thursday with you live. We're coming to you live from the Warner Center here in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. It is also the home for Autism Live. I'm really thrilled about today because there's a lot of things that we're going to talk about today that are some of my favorites. And I love to bring you strong, fabulous women. And three of my favorite strong, fabulous women are going to be on the show today. It's going to be really exciting. And then we're going to talk about a woman that I'm, not feeling happy warm thoughts towards this morning. My head will come off a little bit later on this morning about Pauline Hanson. I'm sure you all have things that you're thinking about her. That will be in a little bit later. But I want to remind you that this entire show, we're going to be with you live for the next 2 hours, and the entire show is meant to be interactive. We want to hear from you. We want to know your thoughts, your feelings, your concerns, your questions, your comments, anything at all. Bring it all. I'm happy to talk about it all. Because we talk about autism from a 360-degree perspective. That means it's not all going to be hearts, flowers, and roses. It means that sometimes the topic of conversation is going to have more to do with you than other times, but if you let us know what you want to have the conversation be about, it's going to be closer to what you want. So don't be shy. I always say I gave up mind reading to be an autism parent. So I don't want you to be a mind reader either. So Samantha's going to show you some of the different ways that you can participate. While she does that, I want to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, lots of things to do. All you have to do is click on the triangle that is on the computer screen, and that will start either the live show playing or the most recently recorded live show. If you want to go back through our archives, there are lots of ways to do that. Right on that page, there's a little memo tab that's in the upper left-hand corner. If you click on that, you can see the 100 most recent episodes. If you want to go back further in time, I highly recommend going to our YouTube page where things are classified by topic, and you can search things and go back in time and see all kinds of different guests that we've had here on the show. But back to our website, if you go to our web, there's lots of ways for you guys to interact with us, right? You can be putting your comments on Facebook Live. You can put them on YouTube where we're live. You can write to me personally, s.penrod@autism-live.com. But one way that you can write to us that is particularly wonderful because it's completely anonymous, if you go to autism-live.com, there's something called the live feature there. It's a series of white boxes. If you put your cursor in the one that says your question, all you have to do is type and hit enter. No login, no username, no password, no credit card, no identifying information. We don't know where you're writing from, which is why I always encourage you, tell us what the closest major city is so that I can reference resources close to you. If you're writing to me from Bangladesh, the resources that I'm going to be able to tell you about are different than if you're writing to me from Newark, New Jersey. It just is the reality at this point in the game, although we hope that someday that will not be the case and the playing field will be level and everybody will have access to good resources at the touch of a button. But, until then, the future is coming, but not yet. So please reference for us. And if you want to give us personal information so we can get back to you like an email or something like that, I won't share that with the audience at home, which is a lot of times why you see that I don't put the question up. I have a way to show the question that we're answering, and sometimes I don't because it has personal or even something I'm afraid of being personally identifying. I won't put it up. All right. I do like to remind you at the start of the show that while we have many experts, and I've got some great experts for you here today on the show, I'm not one of them. Don't confuse me with those experts. I'm an autism mom. My son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. He just turned 14. Squee, what a fabulous young man he is, because I'm so lucky that I got access to good treatment and good resources. And that's why this matters to me. I want you to get access to what you need, just like I did and just like my son did. And that's why it's important to me. You know what I always say, we hold hands, we get through this together. Si se puede. We can do this. Yes, we can. But we have to have help. You can't do this by yourself. Can we just let go of the expectation that we can do it by ourselves? I know I have thought in the past and had the idea running around my mind that, you know, I'm supposed to know everything and be able to do all of it and figure it out. And that I'm supposed to have a cape behind me that flutters in the wind. But you know what Edna says on The Incredibles? No capes, they get caught in the fan. And that's what happens when I try to be super mom. So we do this together. Together we have a bigger voice, okay? So don't confuse me with the experts, but do confuse me as somebody who cares greatly. We like to start every show with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we give you one phrase, acronym, or word that we like to shed light on. Well, today, we preempted our usual jargon term because we needed to put in a new jargon term, which typically is not thought of in conjunction with autism, but on closer inspection, we have seen in the last 2 days that we need to include this in our jargon terms and get clearer about it. So the term is bigot. And what you see before you is a screenshot of what Merriam-Webster defines as bigot. So let's take a look at our actual definition of a bigot. Merriam-Webster says a bigot is a person who is obstinately or intolerantly devoted to his or her own opinions and prejudices, especially, in italics, one who regards or treats the members of a group, such as a racial or ethnic group, but we can include a group with different abilities, with hatred and intolerance. So that is our actual definition of bigot. Now let's go on to our working definition of a bigot. There she is, Pauline Hanson. Pauline, we are calling you out today as a bigot because those of you who have read anything in the news in the last 2 days or been on Facebook have seen Pauline's picture everywhere. Pauline is a member of, she's the One Nation leader, senator in Australia, and she gave a speech the other day talking about education in Australia, and in it she said some things that I would certainly classify as being full of hatred and intolerance toward a group of people, namely kids, students on the autism spectrum. If you haven't read some of the things that she said, let's talk about it just briefly. She said that our kids are one of the reasons why there are difficulties in general education. She said that they should be removed from mainstream classes. She said, quote, "These kids have a right to an education." Well, geez, Pauline, thanks for that. She said, "These kids have a right to an education by all means, but if there's a number of them, these children should actually go into a special classroom, looked after and given that special attention." Well, she goes on to say, most of the time, teachers spend so much time on them, they forget about the child who wants to go ahead in leaps and bounds in their education, but are held back by those. So apparently there are no children on the autism spectrum who want to move ahead in education in leaps and bounds. Pauline, this is where your ignorance starts and where your bigotry is deep. There are so many things that she says that make my blood boil and curdle. She says it's no good saying we have to allow these kids to feel good about themselves and we don't want to upset them and make them feel hurt. Well, thanks, Pauline, for your opinion. She says we have to be realistic and consider the impact that it is having on other children in the classroom. Pauline, are you saying we don't have to consider the impact it's having on kids with autism? I think so, Pauline. I think it further qualifies you under the bigot term, obstinately holding to your own opinions. She says, we need to get rid of these people because you want everyone to feel good about themselves. Now, She has said that she's not going to apologize for those comments. She has said that they're taken out of context and that it's horrible the way we have bent her words. She has further said about that particular comment about getting rid of them, that what she meant was do-gooders, that we have to get rid of do-gooders. Pauline, I think you're reaching. It's still inappropriate, and we all know what you meant. Here's the thing. She's a bigot, and I don't want to waste a whole lot of time on her. I really want to encourage anybody who ever voted for her or is behind her to relook at her. Because one of the most incendiary things that she said was that she understood where autism parents were coming from, and that if she had one of these children, she would also want them in the general classroom and to have them have a fair chance at a regular education. But since they aren't, she feels that they need to be in another room. That, my friends, is very telling. She's saying, because you are not me and because I don't have your problem, I want you to go away. And you clearly don't want what we want, because our kids want an education and to get ahead leaps and bounds. This is ignorance. On its worst level. It is bigotry. She is saying she refuses to apologize. She's holding to those opinions. I really don't want to waste a lot of breath on her, but I do want to say that when people who are ignorant and bigots get power, they become the ultimate bullies. I'd like to see this woman removed from office. And those of you who are watching us in Australia, I hope that you will deal efficiently and effectively and not waste too much time on this woman. She is a bigot. And that's our jargon for today. Moving on, we always have a question that we like to ask you. And our question was decided long before Pauline ever decided she wanted to say anything. Our question is, what is or was your biggest challenge with school/education? I'm guessing in Australia today, it's Pauline Hanson. But for those of us other places in the world, I think it's really, there are challenges that happen in classrooms. And there are challenges for teachers in classrooms. There are challenges for all kids in classrooms. And we want to face those head on and start to deal with them. So write in and tell us what your biggest challenge is with school and education. And let's try to be productive and deal with those in a productive way, instead of asking that people be removed because they aren't wanting to move ahead leaps and bounds. Oh, the ignorance. Okay, moving on. We always have a topic of the week for you that we like to share. Our topic this week is finding resources. Because, as I said before, that's what's essential. The resources are not the same in every area of the world, and you want to be able to plug into. We will show you things here on the show, and a lot of times today I have people that are local and here in the Los Angeles area, and I know sometimes you guys will say to me, well, that's not hardly fair because those resources aren't where we are. The truth of the matter is that we have just as many people that we Skype in from different places for resources that aren't in Los Angeles. But that's not really the issue, is it? The issue is that when you say, I don't have that resource here, we have to stop for a second and say, is that true? First, you got to look and see, do I have that resource here? And if you don't, the next question is, what do I want to do about it? And maybe not all of the things that we show here on the show are going to be something that you go, I really want to make an effort to have that happen here in my community. But pick something and say, I'm going to spearhead that here in my community. We just, Elaine Hall, we just wished her farewell. She went off to Brown University, where they're opening a new Brown University version of the Miracle Project because somebody said, I want that here. And that's really what it takes. The power of one. We talk about it all the time here on the show. You could be that one. So let's talk about how we find and look for resources. But you got to look first, because you don't know what's there until you look. There are resources. I went to Stephanie's Day 2 weeks ago, and there were people at Stephanie's Day, not a lot of them, but there were booths that I was like, I didn't know you were here in Los Angeles. And if I don't know, I'm guessing that there's something we all don't know about in our backyard that could be good for our kiddos. So first look, and then we'll talk about, how you look. And after that, if it's not there, you can make it happen. you can. And often there's somebody who's already created it, so you don't even have to reinvent the wheel. You just got to bring it to your community. So that's our topic for the day. Now, we're not going to have a whole lot of time for that because our guests are so spectacular. I said to you yesterday that I didn't want to reveal because we were having a very VIP guest this morning. She's one of my favorite people on the face of the planet. Vinay Hartshorn is here. I haven't seen her yet, but they tell me she's here. And she is a teacher extraordinaire, has more than 18 years experience working in general education classrooms, and she has her master's degree in special education, and all those things are wonderful, but I can tell you she is beyond fabulous. And I'll tell you why in just a few minutes when she joins us. But she's here, and we're going to talk about, first of all, a tip for teachers, something that they might be hearing to do and some of the pitfalls with it and how to make it better. And then she's going to give some tips for parents about how do you get the most out of your education system? How can you really come to the table and be a team player? So you're going to love it. She's amazing. Then, of course, our regular Thursday tour with our special education attorney friend, Bonnie Yates from Here, G and Chow. She's going to be answering your questions. And then in our second hour, so excited that we have Dina Kimmel, the genius behind We Rock the Spectrum. She's got an exciting new thing that she's doing, a resource fair that's happening here in Los Angeles. But you know, We Rock the Spectrums are popping up all over the place, and there might be a resource fair coming to you. And she's got some exciting news for us. So we're going to have her here. And hopefully, maybe we'll have enough time. I have a really good summer slide for you, how to prevent it. And we have a meditation, a mindfulness moment. Let's hope we get to it. In any case, all this and more coming up. Vinay Hartshorn up right after these messages. Stick with us.
Hi, I'm Yvonne Johansson, and this is My Little House.
My Little House is an interactive, multi-sensory educational felt toy that I invented to help develop children's language skills.
I love My Little House.
I've been working as a speech therapist for over 20 years. I have spent my entire career working with young children. I work with children with language delays, and I have many children with significant cognitive disabilities and children on the autism spectrum. It has been a constant challenge finding toys that are fun, educational, and actually engage my students. In every preschool, since I've been a young therapist, we carry on these felt boards. Kids love them because they're soft and they're fluffy, and there's usually these little pieces that attach to these boards because felt sticks onto felt. You bring them into the activity because they're putting a piece on the board. So it's almost kind of like magic. So then I just thought, wouldn't it be great if I could just take this one-dimensional board and make it into an actual three-dimensional toy? How cool would that be?
That's the idea behind My Little House. You can spread it out flat like a 4-panel felt board, or here's the cool part. In the blink of an eye, My Little House easily converts into a 3-dimensional reversible house.
This is the outside. This is the inside.
My Little House comes with 36 felt cutout pieces that match outlines in 8 colorful rooms. And they're felt, so they stick. Each piece inside my little house has been placed with purpose.
For instance, in the kitchen, whole, half, under, on top, inside, big, bigger, and biggest, empty and full, circle, triangle, inside, outside.
Really cool thing, I have a nonprofit, Lecotech. They are the folks that put out the Differently Able Guide for Toys R Us. They've been doing it for 25 years. They gave me their seal of approval as a toy that they feel is a toy with purpose, and that will make a difference. But My Little House isn't just for kids on the spectrum or with significant disorders. It's also for typically developing 2 to 5-year-olds. It's a fun toy.
Oh, this is so soft. That piece goes.
Recently, I took my little house to the American Speech and Hearing Association convention in Philadelphia, and the response from my peers was overwhelming. Hundreds of therapists, teachers, and heads of school districts wanted to order them.
It was real validation for me that this truly is a toy that needs to get out there.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod. I'm a proud autism mom, I'm a former educator, and I am the host of Autism Live. And as all three of those things, I want to recommend to you My Little House. This is one of the smartest toys I have ever seen for teaching language to kids who have emerging language. Whether they're on the autism spectrum or completely neurotypical, it's a great, fun, reinforcing toy, but it's especially great for our kids that are on the autism spectrum because it makes learning fun and it makes it tactile. They have these felt shapes and they get to match them up. And I'm telling you, even the adults love to play with this. We loved this toy so much that we wanted to be able to bring it to you at a great discount. So right now, if you will go to www.smartfelttoys, and when you get to the coupon code, put in a-live.com, you'll get $5 off. Isn't that great? So I want to encourage you, go and get My Little House for all the kiddos in your life. Welcome back to Autism Live. I promised you a VIP special guest, and I have one of the most VIP of the VIPs. We have Vinay Hartshorn with us, and I mentioned to you before that she is a teacher extraordinaire with more than 18 years in a general education classroom experience. She has her master's in special education, but here's what I want you to know. I have been in her classroom on many, many occasions, some of them because she was my son's 4th grade teacher. And so I know firsthand, but I also was in your classroom even before that.
Oh yes,
because we did a theater project together, and so I was in your classroom, and it was one of the reasons I saw how she was, and I said, oh, I really hope that my son has her for 4th grade. She is a brilliant teacher. I don't think that there's anybody who cares more about our kids in the classroom and where autism is going in the classroom than Vinay Hartshorn. This is my first time having her on the show, and I'm a little verklempt because you're amazing.
Well,
and I don't tell you that enough.
Well, I appreciate that, and thank you, Shannon. But I mean, truly, first off, when you were in the classroom doing theater, what I did was stood back and let you do theater, because that's what you do.
No, well, let's be honest.
So I'm really good at watching.
But you know, you go into the classroom and you see how people have things running very quickly. Very quickly, you see how the kids have self-esteem, you see what's happening. And I saw your classroom and went, this is somebody who's doing something special, and you continue to do special things in your classroom. And so I have said here on the show that we are focusing this year more and more on autism in the classroom, and that I'm going to be featuring people that I think are rock star educators, and we're kicking that off today with somebody. I mean, I get chills because you are a rock star educator.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
Thank
that.
you for being here. And I promised them that we were going to talk about a couple of things today, and that we would start with picking your brain about something that would help teachers to know. So you and I had a conversation last night about, what are some of the trends that people are doing? And you mentioned something to me called a clip chart.
Yes.
I'd never heard of this animal. I didn't know what it was that you were talking about. So describe for us, what does a clip chart look like?
Well, I think most many parents with children in especially the primary grades, so K first, second, perhaps third. Teachers, in order to have classroom management, will use different strategies, and one of the most marketed strategy through all of the stores and really good stuff and Pinterest are clip charts.
Okay.
And so essentially what they are is it's a starts with they're color coded. There's typically 6 colors perhaps, and the students all start at one level, like maybe green for go.
Yeah.
And then if their behavior meets a teacher's expectations, they can move up, and if it's not meeting the expectation, they go down.
Okay.
And typically the down has some sort of negative reinforcement placed on it.
Okay.
And the thing that I find so interesting is the last color is usually like bright red or
Like a stop, kind of a symbolism
right.
to
so
it.
like this is
Okay.
it, we're done, and this is the consequence that's going to happen, and it's usually something that hopefully the child will not desire.
Right. Well, and it's interesting because when you said clip chart, I was like, I don't know what that means. I don't know what the term is. But now that you're talking about the colors and moving up and down, I think we've all seen this in a classroom.
I am sure
yeah,
most
in some
of anybody
some
in
form
a-
or shape.
Yes.
Or whatever. And it's kind of an accepted method of, this is how we do behavior management in a classroom. Like you said, early, 4th grade and younger, you're going to see some version of this. But you think that maybe this has pitfalls, shall we say?
I don't find it personally, having taught, actually I've taught all the grades, but currently I'm teaching 3rd, and I'm actually going to 2nd next year.
Oh, wow.
Because the lower you go, the better opportunity you have to do really strong intervention.
Yes,
to
to
really
make a
meet,
difference.
To make a difference.
Yes, sure.
And so what I've used has typically been, what I found is students that are in the green,
Yeah.
they come in the day and they're in the green, they're either going to stay in the green or they're going to go up. The students that end up needing to be moved into,
The yellow and the red. Yeah. the
I
nether
refer,
regions.
Can I
Yeah.
say I refer, sending to, HELL. Do much better on an independent contract. And oftentimes you still have to have an independent contract for those same students.
Right.
So even though you're publicly calling them to task, you also have to privately try and, at least my perspective is, the best practice would be to privately work with that child and see if you could put in other behaviors that would meet the needs of the child and everybody else in the room.
Because it seems like it would be, and I think you've said this to me before, that it could be very easily, the clip chart can be turned into a shame
Yes.
vehicle.
Yes.
And for the kiddos that are struggling anyway, the very last thing that you would want to do is shame them. And it's the last thing, if what we want is to get to the good behavior, it's the last thing that will actually help them to get to the good behavior because they're struggling for a reason.
Correct. And, most of us know, just common knowledge, is that we all strive to live up to the highest level of expectation.
Sure.
So if our highest level of expectation is to be on red,
Yeah.
we're probably going to be on red.
Yeah.
I will say I personally have tried to use a clip chart
Yeah.
because my peers have used them. And as a 3rd grade teacher, I know I had Jim when he was in 4th, but then I
Yes.
went to 3rd. I wanted to try and stay with the standard cultural
Right.
method that the students were familiar with. And what I found for myself was that it was double work, because I would have to be aware and move the child down, per se, or up. It's much easier for me to move a child up.
Right. Because you're that kind of a teacher.
Well, I think for most of us it's easier. But, and then I would still have to do an independent contract. So now I'm doing this and this.
Right.
So I think for teachers that truly want to work on helping students change their behavior
Yeah.
and meet high expectations, just an independent contract, which is a one-shot deal. And then the rest of the class, will do what's expected. So
Right.
you don't need to clip them up
Okay.
and things like that.
But if
At
so-
least from my experience.
From your experience, and which your experience is vast, and you're getting it done, and your kids make progress. I know that, so this is why I wanted you to come on to talk about this. For people who are really tied to their clip charts, is there a way that they can modify the clip chart so that it isn't so shame cycled, and that could actually be a reward based thing that motivates? Do you? Because I know
I did,
you
and
had
I currently there is a movement in many public schools called PBIS, which is positive behavior something support. And what that program has done is it's taken some components of ABA and tried to put them into place for the entire school
Right.
setting. And through that program, this clip chart system and these other negative reinforcement systems, which are in teachers' minds more punishment based,
Yes.
are kind of coming up to question.
Okay.
And so I happen to be the head coach at our site for PBIS.
Yes.
And so in order to try and support our teachers, I put a clip chart in place this year that was just moves up. So everybody comes in at, we're all meeting expectations, we're all ready to start to learn today. And then as they meet the expectations that are directly taught, the students then can move up and then they get a reward depending. So by the end of the day, if whatever color they're on, and they're all, just neutral colors, they get a hot ticket and then we do treasure box and whatnot. So it's, but that way they can still go.
Yes. When you changed that with your kids and said there's only, going up, there's no going down.
Correct.
Did you see a change in behavior?
What we saw was I saw behavior that was more often meeting the expectation
Nice.
that was taught.
Yeah.
And the students were more often trying to receive the praise.
Yeah.
And be, recognized for them choosing to do the right thing.
Absolutely.
So,
And I think, it's sort of a duh. Like
Well-
once you think about it, you go, well, if you put yourself into the body of those little teeny tiny people,
Absolutely.
that regardless of what their challenges are, there is a time in which they all want to please.
Absolutely. We
And-
all want to please.
Right? But even with, I think sometimes people forget that kids with different needs still want that too. They want to please. But if they don't know what to do to please and they don't think they can ever get there.
Correct.
I mean, I saw this with my own kid that if he feels like he's lost it, then look out.
Right. We give up.
He's got nothing left, and so then you're going to get the very worst behavior.
Absolutely.
We all need hope. And to give kids hope, then you get to that behavior over and over and over again. It's the positive reinforcement thing.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people misunderstand, and then if we're constantly punishing, let's face it, we were all trained to punish. We all grew up in a society in which you have to,
well,
teach
and I
them.
think, and I do believe that to some degree that that's kind of, we have laws and we have, police officers and we have, lawyers, we have all these people that are trying to control society. But I think that the flip side to that is that when we're working in a classroom, and now, even at first and second, we're talking 28, sometimes 30 students.
Yeah.
What type of behavior pops up most often that you're going to see that you can say, hey, Johnny, stop that, right? It's the behavior that we don't expect. It's the
Right.
behavior we don't want.
Right.
And so it's much easier to say,
To
knock
pounce
that
on that.
off.
Instead of praising, look at how
Right.
nicely you're sitting.
And that's the key. I mean, we know that through ABA is that, the goal is to try to extinguish the behavior we don't want.
Yeah.
But that means you have to ignore it. And there becomes all sorts of other issues involved with the classroom of,
Yeah.
numerous other students. So.
And there we hear it from the experienced teacher. We're starting to run out of time, and I don't want to lose time because we're going to talk about from the parent. Here we have this brilliant mind here, somebody who's in the classroom, and I wanted to pick your brain for what parents can do to better set their kids up for success. What do you see, and what advice would you give to parents for what works, and what presents difficulties?
I think that first off and foremost, I think the best thing to always think about is that, hopefully your classroom teacher is your partner in this endeavor. And I kind of explain it at back to school night. It's very similar to when you have a 2-parent household and, the child goes to this parent and gets what they want. And so they don't go to this parent and the parents don't talk about it. And now we have this whole dichotomy and manipulation going on. Well, the same thing can happen with a classroom teacher and a parent is if the parent and the classroom teacher can work together as a team to meet the needs of the child, then we're going to have success. And if we have a situation where perhaps the teacher isn't open to listening to the ideas and advice, or the parent hasn't approached that because of fear.
Yeah.
I mean, fear. It is a scary feeling to put your child, regardless of their needs, into somebody else's hands for 6 to 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
I mean, as a teacher, I see my students sometimes more than their, primary caregiver.
Yeah.
So, except, even the weekends. I mean, when you add up all the hours of sleeping and all these things, they're with me 6 hours, 6 to 8 hours a day. So that's scary, no matter what, to leave your child. And so you want to make sure that you have a trusting relationship with that person.
And if you advocate being honest with them and letting them know what's going on, I think a lot of times as parents, we tend to not want to disclose things to teachers and to schools because we're afraid it could be used against our kid, or they'll be stigmatized or whatever. But you really advocate taking the leap and being as honest as you can be. And then if you see that they're not open to it, then what do you advise?
I would advise, if possible, find an advocate, find somebody that, even if it's just somebody else that has had a similar experience, or somebody else you can talk to as a parent, to see what other steps you can take to get the needs of your child met. I mean, the bottom line is that as parents, and I am a parent and a grandparent, we have to advocate for our children.
Yeah.
And that means we may be stepping on toes.
Yeah.
But if we want what's best for our child, then we might have to step on some toes.
Now, parents, it's interesting you bring that up. Parents are always afraid that we're going to be labeled that parent, and that you'll take it out on our kid, and that we're, they're all going to hate me, and they're going to think that, I'm difficult. What do you think, for parents who are afraid of being annoying, what can they do so that they're not annoying?
I feel that's really a difficult question for me, because that fear is a reality. Yeah. And that's just the honest truth. I mean, I'm honest, right? That. And that's the truth. I mean, when we have those parents, it's like, I don't, it's that parent. Yeah. I don't want that parent. Some of the strategies, actually, I can only go to you, Shannon. Some of the you would bring cupcakes to the IEP meetings.
Yes, I did.
You found people on staff that you knew you could trust, and you would ask them to help you, advocate for you. And when it came down to it, you would go and find other people outside that would help you and open up how you could meet the needs. And then if none of that works, you may need to find an open enrollment campus.
That's true. But I will say too, we were talking about this a little bit last night, and I do look back, and some of the best, one of the best single things that I did was I started in kindergarten volunteering and coming into the classroom. And that led to me doing more volunteer, so that everybody on campus knew who I was.
Yes.
So even though there was, there's that parent, I do think there was, but she does this, and so that it kind of evened out.
So there's absolutely, and that's a really valid point, because when you're that parent that also helps and supports and maybe runs copies, it's like, okay, well, it's not that she just goes in and makes demands and
Yeah.
rants and raves and then leaves.
Yeah.
She's there helping and supporting and showing us how to maybe meet the needs in
Yeah.
a positive way. I mean, you even did your theater after.
I did for a couple of years
Yeah.
after Jem
Was
wasn't
gone.
Yeah, was gone and wasn't going to school there anymore.
Right.
But because I loved it.
I know,
And
I mean-
and I love, you know, a lot of the people at that facility, and I loved a lot of the kids, and knew some of them because they're siblings, and I miss it. I'll be honest, I just don't have the time anymore, but I really do miss it. But I honestly think, you know, I did it. I started the theater project because I would come in and I would do all the copying, and I was getting to know, but you know, the copying, I wasn't good at it.
Yes.
And I wanted to do something that I was better at, that I would actually enjoy. And I went to a PTA meeting and I said, why aren't you, you know what it was? They were having a bullying thing, and they had said in one PTA meeting that it was going to be for all grades. And then they decided to only have it in the 5th and 6th. And my son was in like 2nd grade. And I went to the PTA director and was like, why are you doing that? And she was like, I don't even know who you are. I've never seen you before. You know, have you ever volunteered for anything? You just want to come at me with that? You know, come back to me when you volunteered for something. And I said, you know, I do theater. What do you need? And she said, there's a women. I thought she thought I'd go away.
No.
And I came back with a proposal,
Yep.
and she went, oh, okay, this is what I'm dealing with. But I will tell you, I got more than I gave.
And
Times 25.
we do attract more, what is it, bees with honey or fly?
Yes.
One of those
Right.
terminologies. So,
Yes.
you know, if you can find it within yourself to volunteer and try and have a demeanor of kindness and understanding, you're going to get further with
It's true.
all of us
It's true.
than the, you know, stomp and demand.
But I also think, too, I will say this about the volunteering thing. Not only did it help me with the staff at the school, and I got to know people, and, you know, you get to know who the good teachers are. And, but it also helped with relationships socially for my son. That I swear to you that the first day of junior high, when he went to junior high, do you know what happened? You will know the student that I'm talking about. You know, I was so nervous. It's like 2,000 kids on a campus, and I was like, is my kid gonna survive? You know, are they gonna beat him up in the bathroom? Was what I was worried about. Gen Ed kids. And here were all these kids who were like, Mrs. P! And saying hi to me. And this fabulous young man that you know, Aldous, came up to me and he's like, Mrs. P, what are you doing here? And I said, Jem's starting school here. And he's like, I got him.
Yep.
He says, he'll be fine. I got him. And you know what? I knew that he did, and he would. And this was a kid who was like, he must have been a year older than Jem. But because he had done the play with me, he knew my kid, and he said, you know, he'll be fine. And he was. And nobody ever messed with him because Aldous was like, what you doing?
Can imagine.
Aldous was a good kid.
He was a
one of yours.
doll.
He was. Anyway, and then I talked too much and we're out of time.
No, that's okay. I appreciate it.
Well, you'll be back.
I
'cause
will be
We're
back.
going to be doing more autism in the classroom. And we will
Absolutely.
bring
I'm looking forward to
Mrs.
it.
Hartshorn, as she is well known, back. I hope for all of you that in your child's education that you get at least 1 year with a Mrs. Hartshorn, because
Hope more than that.
I hope more than that too, but at least 1 year with a Mrs. Hartshorn. But we're going to try to, you know, keep spreading good information. If you've got a teacher who's using the clip chart, maybe gently show them this clip.
Autism-live.
Autism in the classroom, how to do positive reinforcement instead of shame our kids into nothingness.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much for
Thank
everything that
you.
you do and for every breath that you take, and what a
my
difference you
pleasure.
make always for all of our kids.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to be back with special education attorney Bonnie Yates. Stick with us.
Being part of this community is really important to a mom. with a son like Jackson, because it really does take a village, and you need so much support, you know, to help bring out all of the amazing qualities and skills and talents that our children have. So I'm just very grateful to everybody who was a part of this.
I think it helps with all sorts of that self-esteem, social skills. They seem to communicate a little bit with each other, and they had a lot of friends. The helpers were phenomenal, and I think the social skills for sure, because they, you know, they worked together and they did a couple group things across the floor, and they sang songs together, and I yeah, for sure, I think it's a really huge deal. A great program.
What programs like this show is the person is in front of what we call today a disorder. I think what we're finding is that these sorts of brain challenges that make people unique can actually be gifts in ways we haven't discovered in the rest of society to bring them out. So when you see a program like this and you see the kids dancing, having fun, and making up jokes, making up the story. I was here when they did that. That was so amazing to watch because they were all focused, they were all present, they were all laughing, they were all getting into the creation of this story. And that to me sort of broke the barrier to say, no, first we're dealing with people and then we're dealing with the challenges.
Logan Shepherd. At first glance, he looks like a typical American teenager. He plays in a band, loves hanging out with his friends, he doesn't like doing homework, and he's not really fond of broccoli. But Logan Shepherd is not your typical 14-year-old. Logan was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. He was nonverbal, made no eye contact, and his parents were told to abandon all hope. Instead, his parents began an intensive intervention treatment. At its center was a quality ABA program known as the CARD method. This is Logan Shepherd now.
All I really want to say is, like, I'm kind of copying Martin Luther King. I kind of have a dream, like, that one day, like, I can just, like, inspire people and never give up. Because, like, that's what I want to do in life. Because if I can succeed, they can succeed. And I will succeed.
To follow Logan's musical journey, visit www.facebook.com/officialdrummerrock or @drummerrock on Instagram. For more information on the CARD method, visit www.centerforautism.com or call 800-345-CARD. Rock on, Logan.
A lot of adults don't really believe kids. They'll think, kids are kids, what are they talking about? But when a child stands up for what they believe in, it's so strong and powerful. I first got involved with autism advocacy 4 years ago when my friend was diagnosed. When I found out about my friend's diagnosis, I didn't really understand what it meant. Matter to me or change our friendship. I didn't look at her any differently. We still had so much fun together. Now I know that she experiences life a little differently than me, and that's okay. Knowing what she goes through has helped me to understand and be more caring towards other people in similar situations. I got involved with ACT Today because I wanted to do whatever I could to help. They provide options like behavioral therapy, medical care, social skills programs, assistance to military families, and much more. Being there for my friend was my #1 priority. I've been volunteering and spreading the word about the cause via my social media platform because raising awareness is a crucial first step. There needs to be more kids and teens involved to make sure that our voices are heard just as loudly as the adults. You may be small like me, but your acts of kindness are not.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are so excited. It's this cavalcade of strong, fabulous women who have been the fabric of my life today. And so on to the next one, we're welcoming Bonnie Yates, special education attorney. She is with the law firm of Hirji and Chow here in Los Angeles. Bonnie, welcome back. Tell us a little bit of information about Hirji and Chow and how we can contact them.
Okay, well, Hirji & Chow is a four-attorney firm in Culver City, California. We specialize in special education, higher education matters, disability discrimination, and discipline. And we offer free intake to anybody, basically, who wants one. And our phone number is 310-391-0330. And then we usually just do a disclaimer at the beginning of the program. I'm answering these questions according to California law because that's where I'm licensed, and to a lesser extent, the federal law, because that applies in all 50 states. And for anybody that has a specific problem, we would, strongly recommend you talk to an attorney in your state.
Okay, having said that, we just love that you're here and that you give this time to answer questions. We were talking last week about due process. And for a lot of parents, that can feel overwhelming. And we're moving on to the next part of answering the question, and I'm going to leave that in your capable hands.
Thank you. So, we are talking about parts of due process. And one part of due process that's interesting that parents might not know is that any time a district gets a due process in the summertime, after June 30th, say, or after June 15th,
we are losing you, Bonnie. We've had such a good connection for so many weeks, and I don't know. You froze, and do you want to call her back, Samantha? How do you want to handle it? We're going to take a short break, and are you there now, Bonnie? We lost you for a second. Are you there?
I'm here, and I can hear you fine. But,
okay. You froze. You kind of chopped up, and then you froze.
Yeah.
It's the Skype gods who are giving us issues today. So we'll pay our Skype dues on that. And so we lost you when you were talking about.
So just quickly,
yeah.
Summer is not a time that a district wants to have cases go to hearing, and they buck and scream and kick and try to move things for that reason. But parents have a statutory right to go to hearing within 45 days. And so if the district can't come up with a good justification for why things shouldn't, things should be continued, they can be stuck in a situation where they have very grumpy employees coming in to testify. And so we like to file cases in the summertime. That's just kind of an aside. But it's interesting, I think, for people to know that there's different ways to get traction with the district.
So it's actually to our benefit then to be filing over the summer because it forces them to have to come in and work, and they're going to be less desiring of it. Good to know.
They don't like it. It makes them grouchy.
Well,
so anyway.
In this instance, we like that.
Right. We like to have their attention.
Yeah.
Anyway, the questions last week included questions about the role of the expert in a special education case. So let's drill down a little bit more on that. We talked about the Benjamin G case, the 2005 case that said even if you've already filed for due process and you're rejecting the district's placement, you have a right to have your expert come into the classroom to observe the district's program, since the district gets lots of opportunities to observe. And this sort of levels the playing field and lets parents participate more meaningfully in the IEP process and, of course, in due process. And so the expert is so critical to these cases that it's very rare that we can do a case from start to finish without an expert. Now, there's some differentiation between the expert's functions at the IEP and the expert's functions in due process. So let's talk for a moment about that. When I have an expert come to an IEP, it's not that I don't have my game face on and that I'm highly alerted, but I have this sense of like having a bigger arsenal because the expert's going to come in and use testing to explain what the child's unique needs are. And oftentimes the expert will have found things wrong with the district's assessments and will report, let's say, that maybe Jim can't do things that the district said he could, or actually the district was wrong. He doesn't have low average cognition, he has average cognition, things that make a difference in terms of this question of whether the district's offered a FAPE. So it's really nice to have an expert at the IEP meeting because they have a greater ability, as their training allows them to interpret district testing results, which are quite technical and complicated, including for the lawyers, which is kind of a whole separate subject, just assessment.
And
But
Bonnie,
anyway,
if I could pause to ask a question, do you find that by having an expert present at the IEP that sometimes you can nip it right there and get the district to say,
sometimes.
okay, we agree?
Often not, but sometimes. And even if we don't nip it there, the district definitely knows the expert is on board and they have to deal with that. And so there would be reasons why the district wouldn't necessarily nip it in the bud right then and there. We had one a week or two ago where it seemed pretty clear that the reason the district didn't offer the placement at the IEP and they chose to do so afterwards in a separate agreement is they wanted to get a waiver of claims. They wanted a clean slate, no liability. And if they give it to you at the IEP meeting, they don't get that. So,
okay, I think people need to know about this because this is super duper important because I've been there at an IEP where people feel like, boy, we presented a case and you leave and it feels like, what just happened, where they just sort of pack up their stuff and they say, we're done. And I've seen the parents be like, oh no, and then a week later they get an offer, which was what they wanted, but it comes with a document that says what, Bonnie? The waiver of claims, what does it say?
It will say this is a settlement, or the last one did. It'll say this is a settlement proposal. It includes these things, and it requires you to give us a firm answer. Like this one was, sorry, but this one was within 15 days. And then it went on to offer not everything the client needed, placement at a non-public school, which the client wanted, but no one-to-one aid, which the student really needs to be successful at the non-public school. And then the parent is asked to waive claims for 2 years. And the services aren't subject to stay put. It's just a year program as a compensatory service. And with that, if the parent accepts, which she hasn't, because she's trying to get a better deal, with that, the district gets a waiver of all claims, and so they can sort of, in this case, the family doesn't live in the district anymore, so they know they have permanence and they're done once and for all. But that case had an expert. The expert came to the IEP meeting and talked about the problems with the district placement, which were considerable. And the district knows, therefore, that the parent has evidence about the district's failure to offer a FAPE, and the district then has to calculate whether or not it wants to take a gamble and go to hearing. I would venture to tell you, parents, that unless you have a very clear-cut black and white procedural violation, like failure to give you your procedural safeguards, or failure to give you records within 5 days, or failure to let you present something at the IEP meeting, most times you're not going to be able to get anywhere with the school district, anywhere meaningful, unless you have an expert. Because the E in expert really translates into E for evidence. Yeah. District has a lot of evidence. It has testimony from a speech therapist, an occupational therapist, their psychologist, the classroom teacher. What does the parent have? Parent has parent's opinion about what child needs, and we've had hearing officers not in any subtle way say, parental testimony is very biased. Well, isn't school district testimony? Yes, but they have the burden of proof. They have to offer FAPE, and they also have a lot of discretion in terms of their methodology, blah, blah, blah. So parents really need experts because the whole system is stacked in favor of perpetuating the district's status quo.
But one reason why parents don't automatically go to the idea of an expert is that it costs money.
It does cost money. It costs quite a lot of money, and we're going to talk about that in a minute and how you can maybe get your expert paid for
Fabulous.
at district expense. Okay, so there's common problems with parents securing experts without legal advice. I'd say the most common problem is paying $6,000 or $7,000 for an assessment. A year later, the lawyer calls up and says, here are the areas in which I want you to testify. And the expert says, I don't do litigation. I don't testify. And the parent never knew that at the time of purchasing the evaluation. So that would be one problem with an expert. Another would be maybe this expert has testified in other IDEA cases and hasn't done well, has been found not to be credible. So that would be another reason. And I mean, the final reason is like the report's too short and it doesn't look at the right things. Like a 2-page report isn't going to cut it, and a 30-minute classroom observation isn't going to cut it. There has to be psychometric, testing, looking at cognition. There has to be academic testing, looking at academics, and social, emotional, so on and so forth. It's a big, comprehensive assessment, and it's always faster if a parent can just pay for an assessment, because the procedure you have to go through to get the district to pay for an assessment takes time. But here's what it is. You can request an assessment at district expense, whatever type you want. OT, speech, psychological, behavior, transition, there's lots of different types of assessments. What you have to show in order to get that assessment is that the district's assessment was inappropriate. And there are ways to do that, and it's difficult, I think, for lay people. Sometimes what the district will do when they get a request for an independent educational evaluation is they will send you back something and say, well, since you didn't like it the first time we did it, we're going to do it again with our people. And that's something you should never agree to. There's no reason to give them 2 bites at the apple. It's just more evidence they can use against you.
Okay. And I think what I'm hearing here, Bonnie, is that when you get to this point, certainly when you're talking about due process, you really have to gird your loins and say, there's 2 things I got to invest in here. I have to invest in an attorney, and I've got to be willing to invest in an expert. There's the potential that the amount of money that you invest, that you will get triple-fold that in educational benefit for your child, but there's also the potential that you will get that money back in the process. But we can't deny the fact that you may not, correct?
Right, of course not. I mean, I've got the burden of proving that the district's offer wasn't appropriate. And that's a more probable than not kind of a determination. So I've got an uphill battle. Hold on a second. I'm just going to step away because my kid is hammering something in the background.
And I was just going to say, bless Bonnie. You can come back to me, Samantha. I was going to say, bless Bonnie's heart that Bonnie donates this time to us, and it's wonderful. And even through the summer when she's got a different schedule, she donates this time. But it's almost like the reporter. Did you see the video of the reporter that had his kids come in while he was doing? You've had everything under the sun. You've got construction going on. Yeah. Bless your heart, but you're still donating your time, and we appreciate that.
Oh, listen, my happy time is when my kids are home, like everybody. Anyway, so how do you get the expert? Well, sometimes I found that parents just get lucky and they write a letter and they say, I don't think the district's assessment was appropriate, and the district, maybe knowing that it isn't, without even parents giving them reasons, will say, okay. And then you get into sort of the second level of fighting, which is, who they're going to let you have do it and how much they're going to pay. But the first level of attack on the district assessment properly is to show that some of the things that the district did or didn't do were inadequate in terms of the information it generated. So if the district had, let's say, relied on IEP goal progress, but the IEP goals were invalid because they had no baselines, you could attack it that way. If the district administered the test in a manner contrary to what the publisher says are the instructions, that would be another basis. I mean, we have a statute that sets forth all the ways in which an assessment has to be appropriate, a district assessment. And if it isn't for any of those reasons, then you get your assessment. And I said earlier that when you get the assessment, it's going to be much faster if you just go out and pay the expert, because districts have all kinds of ways of delaying even when they agree to give the expert. So, for example, they can require that the expert has certain types of insurance to come on the campus, and that's not really needed, and it's harassing. They can say that the expert can come, but she can only spend a half an hour. Well, that's not going to be helpful because you need a good couple hours for the observation to be probative. So they throw up those kinds of roadblocks, and then they throw up price roadblocks. So I'd say it's pretty fair in this day and age that in California, a neuropsychological evaluation costs $6,000, $6,500. So they'll try to lowball parent and give the parent people that will agree to do it for, $4,500 or $4,000. And then, I'm not going to get into the specifics now, but then there's a whole other level of fighting that goes on if the parent says, no, I want this expert. And then you get into to what extent can the district limit certain people by cost.
And in all that time, you're bogged down in arguing with them about that instead of arguing about what you really want to argue about, which is how we're going to educate this child.
That's right, and statutes of limitation are running. But in some cases, we're just very lucky because people that we like will be, let's say, on LAUSD's approved expert list. And that's really a great feeling when you get that for a client because it's a big freebie. Now, the other thing that the districts do once they've approved the assessor is they say, we can't start the process of the expert doing the assessment until we get board approval. So it gets put on the board agenda and you wait another 30 days for the board to approve it. So, I'd say there's like a built-in 3 months of delay sometimes if you try to get the independent evaluation. But we have to do it because we represent so many kids that have no other way to get the assessment that it's just something we have to do. Now, the other thing is, if the district refuses to pay for the evaluation, they have to give you what's called prior written notice. They have to tell you why in writing they won't do this thing you asked them to do, which is provide an independent educational evaluation. And if they say no, they have to tell you their reasons for refusing. And then they have to file for due process and prove that their assessment was appropriate. So districts can't just say no and leave you hanging. They have to respond to you within a reasonable time. And if they don't agree, they have to file for due process, which they don't really like because they don't really like to have to do, they're more reactive. This is kind of a more proactive thing where they're actually having to put on witnesses and spend time to prove that their assessment is appropriate.
Bonnie, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. We're almost out of time, and a viewer has written in and said, can you clarify what you mean by expert? And I think what a great question. When you're talking about having an expert, what are we talking about?
That's a great place for us to pause for a minute. I'm talking about a neuropsychologist to do cognitive and academic testing, or I'm talking about a speech therapist who has, testified before and knows a lot about speech therapy. You could have a reading specialist like Ann Perry from Lindenwood Bell, who just is amazing at explaining, let's say, how dyslexics read. You could have an occupational therapist, anybody that is providing evidence about the unique needs of the kid.
And so depending on the kid, it's going to be different. Would it be your attorney when you're a parent and you're in this process? Would it be your attorney who's saying this is the kind of expert that you need?
Okay, you broke up. I didn't quite get the question.
I was saying, is it as a parent, we don't know out the gate who we need. Would an attorney be somebody who's advising you on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I would caution parents, other well-meaning parents will give you names of experts and tell you they're great, but they don't do the vetting of the expert, like seeing if they've ever testified before or whether they have conflicts of interest because they do too much work for school districts. So really, I think it's critical to choose the right person because you don't want it to be a wash.
Okay. All right. It's a lot for a parent, and I think the minute money comes into it and we're talking about a large chunk of change,
Yeah.
I feel myself going, because not only, it's an expense to get the attorney involved, and then it's an expense to get the expert involved. Do districts, do you feel, take advantage of parents that way and hope that, because you start to weigh it and go, well, if I pay the attorney this and I pay the expert this, would it be easier to just get a tutor and not have an expectation that the school is going to do this work?
The answer to that is districts, of course, are looking at the fact that parents may not have the resources to pony up stuff. I mean, if we have time, I'll give you a little example that came up yesterday.
A quick example, yeah.
We have a client, she needs to go to due process. She has an expert, the expert will opine the district's placement offer was inappropriate. The district is trying to force the parent to give up. So the district refuses to go to mediation, and we settle about 98% of the cases at mediation, and now the district is forcing the parent into hearing. And so even though we're going to work with the parent and substantially compromise what we charge for our fees, the parent still has to pay for the experts, and that's going to be probably $10,000. And so the district administrator is banking on the fact that the parent can't hang on and keep paying for private school, and that the parent can't pay for her expert, and she's thinking that the parent's going to fold. So that's a perfect example.
So it's like playing chicken. They're playing chicken with this parent over their child's education.
Yeah, but what I would tell you that's interesting is 98% of the time, once we filed for due process, which I think almost always is a prerequisite to getting any meaningful done, they settle mediation. So this is an unusual case with an unusually spiteful who needs to go on to some other line of work.
And you're breaking up horribly now, Bonnie. And unfortunately, we're
something done within the system. If you're not going to opt out, which is something we could talk about another time, people that are just leaving special ed and doing their own thing.
Bonnie, I'm going to have you pause because you're breaking up so horribly that we're not able to hear you. But I do want to say that I want to know about this poor parent, and if there's a way that we can help them. Maybe there's a fundraiser that we can do to make sure that they can pony up to play chicken with somebody who sounds like a bully to me. But we're not even able to hear you, Bonnie. It's breaking up so badly. So I think we're going to have to end there and hope that we have better Skype connection the next time we talk, which is not we're not next week, but the week after, and maybe we can pick it up there.
Okay.
Thank you. I want to remind everybody that Hirji and Chow is an amazing law firm, and Bonnie works for them. And you heard her say that they do free intakes. And if you are in need of a lawyer, definitely you want to pursue that. We had a question that came in about an evaluation for an IEP that we'll address the next time. But if Bonnie, I don't know if we can hear you for a second, but the goodie of the COPA, because they're looking for a lawyer in Palm Beach County, Florida. So let's see if we can hear you. Go ahead, tell them the COPA.
Yeah, that's www.copaa.net.
Fabulous. And that's
there will be Florida law. And next time when we're going to talk about is how a lawyer prepares a case for due process.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Adore you.
Sorry, the reception wasn't better.
It's not your fault. Okay. But we'll see you the Thursday after the 4th of July.
Perfect.
All right.
Thanks,
Bonnie.
Okay, bye.
All right. And we're running a little bit behind here, and we want to get to Dina Kimmel, who's here, because we want to rock the spectrum, don't we all? So we're going to take a short break here, and then back with Dina Kimmel from We Rock the Spectrum. Stick with us.
Potty training is different for every child. A child could come in with absolutely, no control over their bladder. And as long as that's not a medical issue, then we can certainly approach it behaviorally and give them the tools they need to be successful, just like any other skill that we would teach.
Well, we think he's learning to pee on the potty. No big successes yet, and lots of accidents. Here is the laundry from today.
For some of our kids takes, just a couple days. And then for other kids, it can take months and months and months. And then when you're looking at complete independence, it can take years.
Hey, you have to go pee-pee?
No. There's a lot of different ways to tell if a child is ready. We look for a couple different things. Probably the most important is parents saying, I need this to happen, I'm ready. Second is, a child showing interest in the bathroom, and some of it is simply age. It's time to go ahead and work on this.
What are you doing? Pooping. You're pooping?
You first start with teaching the child what they need to do on the toilet. The basic thing we want is for them to drink as much liquid as possible. It's inevitable that if you drink a bunch of liquid, you're gonna pee.
No, I can't help you pee. I can hold your hand, but I can't help you pee.
Ultimately, what we want is that, the child, as soon as they're put on the toilet, they urinate. So that's step one. Step two is usually working through the amount of time that they're off of the toilet and making sure that they're not having accidents during the time that they're off. So this is kind of the bladder control stage of things.
So the purpose of the potty log is just to see how long it takes them as soon as they sit on the potty for them to actually urinate, and the amount of time that he's able to hold his urine. And with the log, we're able to visually see how long it takes them each time, and if they have accidents or not. He's on a half-hour potty schedule, so if he doesn't go when we take him, then we have to take him in 10 more minutes. So every 10-minute intervals until he does go, and then we reset the clock, and it's 30 minutes again.
Okay, buddy. Okay, last chance to go pee-pees. Do we reset it for 10?
Oh, what does that mean? What does that mean, Jack? It's potty time! We can come play after. Hurry!
What we hope happens in this time is that the kids will learn how to initiate going to the bathroom on their own. This is oftentimes the hardest part of potty training, is because they get so used to somebody telling them when they need to go that they're not really recognizing the signs just in their own body of when they need to go.
Oh, he wet himself.
Uh-oh. Big wet?
Was it a lot? We can reset to half an hour now.
The biggest thing for parents is not to give up. The other big tip, and I think pitfall that a lot of parents fall into, is putting their children back into pull-ups or diapers, especially if they're starting to have accidents. And this is probably the worst thing that you can do. They need to recognize that feeling of fullness in their bladder and take themselves to the bathroom, or tell an adult that they need to go to the bathroom.
What do you have to do? You have to put your pee-pee in the potty. Okay, give it a shot. See if you can put it in there. There you go. You're doing it. Yay, Jack. Big push for your pee-pee. Big pee-pee. Yay! Woo! Yay! Good job. What a big boy. High five, high five, high five, high five, high five, high five, high five.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I feel like everybody at the Hanson, and at a Hanson concert, yay, mbop, that everybody's yelling and saying yay. They were just showing somebody being potty trained.
Oh, they were?
And everybody, yay!
Oh my gosh,
But I
would
feel
too,
that
too.
way too, because here we are. You haven't known, but today it's been like these cavalcade of strong women in my life that come and are making such a difference. And so we had a teacher who was on, and then we just had a special education attorney, and now we have here the fabulous Dina Kimmel. That I'm significantly older than you, but I kind of want to be more. I don't want to be you, because you're you, and I don't want to be you, but I want to be more like you when I grow up.
I want to be like you when I grow up. You're
No,
my
you don't.
hero.
No, you don't. But no, seriously, and I've said this before, and I will say it again, and I say it behind your back, but you're doing incredible things. That you are an entrepreneur, but you are an entrepreneur with a heart, and that you make dreams come true for families, all kinds of families in all different kinds of ways.
You make me cry already.
All right, well, we have tissues. But for those of you who don't know, because you've never watched the show before, this is Dina Kimmel, and she is the brilliant mastermind behind We Rock the Spectrum Gyms. We're huge fans of them here, because anytime something makes sense and is smart and is right, I'm going to be a fan. And you're that on steroids. You're an autism mom, and this is, I don't want to take words from you, but this wasn't your intention. This wasn't
No.
what your life was going to be,
No.
was owning gyms and helping other families to own gyms so that they could make this happen. You were doing other things, and you were successful doing other things, and then you had a child with autism.
And your whole life changes.
Yeah.
Then it's about, how do you make it work? How do you make it work with that child and the sibling?
Yeah, and you saw quickly that your child, your fabulous son, who is such a little light, both of your kids are not little lights, they're big lights. But he responded to what? What was the thing that...
Well, for him, he was just the sensory. I mean, this first diagnosis was, sensory processing disorder, and then became autism. But he'd crash, and he hated playing with me. It was so sad. And I was the mom who, stayed home with him that first year. And I couldn't understand that when Daddy came home, and Daddy would wrestle him on the ground, and he loved it. And it was so hard until finally I had a wonderful OT therapist who taught me about sensory processing disorder and autism, and built a gym in my home.
And you say he would crash. I think for people who don't, people know when they see it in their own kid, the kid who runs up, can't hug you, but runs up and knocks you over.
Oh yeah, headbutts you, knocks you over, climbs all over your body.
Oh my gosh.
And they're not toddlers when they're doing it. They're 4, they're
Yeah.
5, they're 6, really up till he was 7 or 8.
I used to say that Jem tried to climb us like we were trees, and he wanted to sit on our head. And I could tell when he was dysregulated because he would climb up me and get on my head like a monkey climbing a tree.
Exactly.
And I would go, what's happening?
Exactly.
What is this that's happening? But
Exactly.
you saw that, your kid needed a certain amount of sensory input. And I remember the day that my OT said to me, what would be good for your son is if you hung a swing in your house and then let him get in it and hang upside down. And you know what I said to her was, is my kid a vampire? I was like, what? And I remember going home and my husband and I laughing, going, yeah, we're going to put a swing in the middle of the living room and have him hang upside down and spin. Well, you had somebody say something like that.
And I did it.
And you put the swing in your living room.
And then I didn't travel without one.
Right.
We wouldn't go places without where we could put an eye hook in the ceiling and hang a swing. Absolutely.
That's why I say I want to be more like you when I grow up. Because you took that to heart and said, let's do it, saw that it meant something to your kid. And
Kids, really, it was both.
Yeah.
It's different. You have your son.
Yes.
He doesn't have siblings. Trust me, if you had a sibling with him, you would be sitting right here with me or have done the same thing long before I did.
Well, let's pause for a second and say, no, because I don't have that kind of a mind that you have, but eventually you opened your gym and saw what it did for you and your family, and then had people come to you and say, I want to be more like you when I grow up. How do I own a gym? And you franchised. And I have said and continue to say that if you had been doing that a couple years earlier, there would be no Autism Live, because I would have a We Rock the Spectrum gym. I still think about how I want to do it, but I don't have the time. But I would have been one of your owners. I promise you, we were looking for what to do, and that you weren't there yet. But if you had been, that's what I would have done in a heartbeat.
Well, I consider that an honor coming from you, of course. I mean, an honor, because like I said, you have been with us since the beginning, and seen how We Rock has grown from Tarzana to now in 21 states and 5 countries now, which I'm excited to tell you about.
Somebody asked me the other day, how many gyms do you have? And I said, what day is it? Because I'm sure that it's more. So how many are there? How many that are already open and running, and how many are there that total in terms of in some phase of about to open?
So we have 70 gyms in total. We have 41 that are open. Well, it'll be 42 this weekend. We have our first opening up in the state of Illinois, which I'm very excited about. And again, just warrior autism parents. They have a 22-year-old, and they need this. I mean, you should have seen him. He's, moderately on the spectrum, and he was in the gym. Okay, she posted a video of him, and he has motor, difficult with the motor processing, and he was putting down the tiles to the gym floor, and she's already had huge articles on him, and I get chills, but it's just, it's their missing piece, and they're in their late 40s and early 50s, so this is their, their second chapter in life where they're hanging their hat, and it's just, it's beautiful. I do change people's lives, and I feel honored to be able to say that. And it's probably the first time I've ever said it on your show, because I am humble about it. But now I'm seeing it with the parents. And Seattle just opened up the weekend before last, and oh my gosh, just the import of inquiries and people saying thank you. And they have twins on the spectrum. These families, they need it.
Well,
they need it. They need it everywhere.
And that's just talking about the owners of the gyms. But once they open, what happens is that the community needs it as well, and we should pause for just, there's so much to talk about, but if you don't know, and look and see if you have a We Rock near you, and if you do, go, because you will get it instantaneously, that each one of the gyms has a core of that they're all the same, that they're 10 pieces of equipment that each gym has, so no matter where you go, if you're traveling and you see a We Rock, you can pull over and go there, and you're going to have some of the same things, but then beyond those 10 pieces of equipment, each gym has its own little flavor.
That's exactly right, which we want.
Of course, that is brought to it. There's even a fabulous gym in Glendale that's geared towards teens a little bit more. And so each gym has its flavor, and people can bring their kids and sign their kids in and have their kids do something in the gym and run around and get their yayas out. Or they can buy time so that they can come on tell us how it works, because I know you've got different packages of how people can do things.
We do, and it's great because oh my gosh, and they are rocking and rolling this summer. Oh my gosh, it's tremendous. And I love it. I work the camps. I go across the street. I'm with the kids. I'm talking with the parents. I'm telling you would love it. I stand on the the desk and sing with the kids, and oh my gosh, it's so much fun. It warms my heart, and especially seeing those kids who don't eat or aren't verbal, and then end our 8 weeks of camp, and they're speaking and they're eating better. And it's tremendous. But we do have different memberships. We have the open play where you could come in one time and pay $12 or $10, depending on if you buy a package, which of course there's always packages to bring down the price. And then we have our We Rock Care, where you can leave your little one. I mean, you and I both know with respite, okay, so the state might give you respite, but then they're going to give you someone who knows nothing about dealing with our children on the spectrum. And they're going to be calling us going, your son just bit me and is tearing apart the house. What do I do? So we are like an in-facility respite as well, and you can leave your child there and go on a date with your husband and go to the movies and get your nails done, your hair done, or go grocery shopping without your little one having a tantrum. Right? So, and then we offer our Schools Out program, which is like camps. And now finally, by the grace of God, Regional Center has come on board and is funding us to be those one-on-ones for the kiddos in camp. That's what's really huge.
We love that.
Yeah.
So there are opportunities pretty much for anyone as a parent. If you didn't know about it, it's one of the most exciting things, and you got to know more about it. And they're coming up in more places. Should we talk about Dubai?
Sure, why not?
Well, why not? Because this time last year we were talking about the fact that you were about to go international, and that Malaysia, and so now we just got the news the other day that you're going to
Dubai and Saudi Arabia. Yeah,
amazing.
It's tremendous.
And we've got pictures.
I'm not sure if you guys have a picture, of them, but she's tremendous. She's already. She has 2 chiropractic clinics. It's Dr. Nashila, and her and her family are tremendous, and has a child with sensory processing disorder, and just really saw the need and was visiting one of the gyms in Boca Raton, Florida, and said, I want to do this. So she came to the Malaysia grand opening, and I met her. So she got to see me in action there and setting up the gym and, working with our owners. And it's built from there. So she bought the rights. There's their master franchisees when they go to different owners. So I teach them basically to be me.
Yeah.
And then they sell the whole country. So she'll be opening up 30 gyms of her own, there to her franchisees. And it's tremendous, okay? I'm not going to lie. The Dubai location, it's in a mall because, hello, it's so hot there.
Right.
This gorgeous mall, Jumeirah Beach. It's amazing. And It's huge. It's 5,500 square feet. They're going to have a coffee and juice bar in there and a little beauty salon, okay? Mom gets their hair done. Come on, all right?
nice.
I mean, my hair, I didn't get my hair done for 2 years, I swear, when Gabriel was
Still
first
haven't gotten my hair
diagnosed.
done.
I love your hair, by the way. Short and sassy,
I'm
baby.
just gonna shave it off.
But they are tremendous. Their opening is the end of September. I can't believe it.
That's quick.
Yes, and
My
then they're
goodness.
moving to Saudi Arabia, which has over 30 million people in it. And we're excited as we're bringing on also Australia at the end of the year. So that's the first time announcing that.
Exciting.
Yes, it's very, very exciting.
Australia. Oh my God. Well, there's some good news for Australia that that could use it today. Remarkable. We talked about that earlier today. I don't want to give her any more time, but good news, and we always need good news, and we need hope, and we haven't even talked about the social aspect of it, which you brought up a little bit, having another child who's not on the spectrum, that she needed a place to be able to go and have interaction and see, that she could still have friends, and her brother being on the autism spectrum was not going to be in her negative column.
And it was.
And how could it not be in some respects to a kid who sees, oh, this person is getting attention that I'm not getting and I don't understand why?
Exactly.
Even if it's negative, even if the attention is negative, that's a hard thing to explain to a sibling.
Well, and she was born the autism whisperer. I think, oh, they're showing the bus too. This is great. This is something that we've just branched out on We Rock on Wheels. I think we spoke about it last on the show. But Malaysia really wanted to go mobile, and I decided to bring it to the whole world. And that's actually, that's the Tarzana. That's the Tarzana We Rock on Wheels there at a preschool. And that is in New Orleans. Okay, our new owners of We Rock on Wheels there, and they're doing tremendous.
Amazing.
And then we also have one in Kansas City as well going, and now they're building more buses
and it's a gym inside the bus. It's not just a bus that comes and is decorated. What I love is that you can go to events. You can go for a birthday party.
Which is why I'm here today, to talk to you about that.
Okay, tell me.
Absolutely. But the bus has the zip line. It has the climbing apparatus. It has the swings. So a lot of us parents, and it breaks my heart because I'm really devoted to helping, to advocacy. That's what I do. I still go to IEPs. I donate my time to families who don't have monies. This is the love of my life, that I can pay it forward to these families who are not stuck and felt alone, like I did for so long. But to be able to actually have the bus go to your home, right? And have all that OT equipment there and pay $50 an hour instead of $150. Shannon, that's really the blessing. But of course, going to preschools, for neurotypical and for kids on the spectrum, it's dynamite. It's unbelievable.
It's absolutely amazing.
It really is.
And to that end, as somebody who is making such a difference in the community, you've got an event that's coming up, and those were the auspices under which we said to you, please come and be on the show again. So let's take a short break, and then we want to come back and talk about the We Rock the Spectrum Resource Fair that's coming up on July 16th here in Los Angeles. It's in Tarzana. Yes? No?
No, it's at Lake Balboa, Woodley Park.
Lake Balboa. Oh, see, I'm so jealous. Okay, it's at Lake Balboa, Woodley Park. Okay, so we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and get the skinny on all of it so that I won't give misinformation. Stick with us right back after this. We're very excited because we're in the Noah's Ark exhibit, and we're here with Jason Porter. Thank you for taking us on this tour.
Oh, thanks for having us.
So you're going to show me around a little bit and show me some of the secrets of the Noah's Ark exhibit, right?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Cool, let's go. Yeah. So Jason, tell us, this is an amazing space. Why is it so incredible for children?
One of the values of the Skirball Cultural Center is taking care of the earth and one another, and so this idea of repurposing materials that would otherwise be tossed off was a big component to how we design the galleries. It's based on, certainly the story that everyone knows is the one from the Hebrew Bible, the story of Noah. But in our research, we looked at over 200 flood stories from around the world, and many different cultures have flood stories that have similarities, and the similarities that we identified were these three chapters: the storm, some crazy challenge that comes to your life; an ark, a kind of means of survival, a way for a community to come together to survive; and finally the rainbow, which is this kind of symbol of hope, the second chance to make the world anew.
Love it. All right, let's take a look through, and we're going to talk about some of the learning opportunities that are available here.
We really wanted people to kind of discover what they were supposed to do. For example, this elephant has a gong in the center, and there's a little wheel here that you can turn and see what happens. But there's also some hidden things, like there's a little peephole in this polar bear, so it's kind of a moment where you could talk with your kids about what does it mean that that polar bear in there only has a small piece of ice to live on it, and you could talk about kind of the environmental issues that might be associated with it.
All right, should we go downstairs?
Yeah, let's check out the storm.
So Jason, what do you call this room?
This is called the Storm Gallery. In one side of the gallery, we have a storm wall, which is all sorts of sounds and sight effects to make the storm come to life. But we have this, what we call the load up. It's fairly intuitive. You know, you put animals onto the conveyor belt and you turn the wheel and they get loaded up onto the ark. Except you can't do both at the same time by yourself. It's kind of layered in the doing, the learning that we're really interested in, which is about this notion of working together in order to accomplish something. So, you know, when you first get on the ark, obviously you enter 2 by 2 as the story goes. And so the animals in this first section of the ark, you know, they're not quite sure where they should be. They're a little bit nervous about who to hang out with. The gallery is really organized so that the animals are still in pairs. So we talk a lot about what are the elements of home that you need to survive. And it's really a nice kind of intro into the whole experience of being in a community, learning to be together with people who may or may not be the same as us. This gallery of Noah's Ark is unique, I think, in terms of the way that it was designed, that it offers a huge variety of experiences in a way that really accommodates people of all stripes and spots. So there are more quiet zones, like we just left in the move-in day, where you can come into this room where you have a lot of large motor things that are happening, including climbing, and we kind of have nicknamed this the arcade. It's kind of the chapter in the story where they're making new families and they're mixing with other animals that they've befriended. Oh, we have to talk about poop.
We can't do a show without talking about poop.
So, you know, the other fact of life on an ark is that everybody poops. So the challenge is to, you know, clean up.
Okay, so we're in the last room, very cool room. What do we call this room?
We call this the Rainbow Gallery. You know, people really get that this is a place of hope. Sometimes there's an art-making project, that it ends in some sort of inspiration, that people feel like they're inspired to take action in the world and make it a better place.
Thank you so much for showing us everything and telling us about all the wonderful things at the Skirball Center. Welcome back to Autism Live. We're here with Dina Kimmel from We Rock the Spectrum, really one of my heroes. She's an amazing woman on a mission to make a difference, and she is every day making a difference with her We Rock the Spectrum gyms, with both the owners who have this opportunity of entrepreneurship and creating a place in which their kids can be safe and have a place to work. And you know, as you say, it's a place where you never have to apologize, right? And that the community benefits from it because kids of all abilities can come play together and work out some of those sensory issues in a positive way. So amazing. Well, and Dina doesn't stop. She creates and creates and creates. And so now you've got a new event that's coming up. It's happening here in the Los Angeles area. Tell us a little bit about the We Rock the Spectrum Resource Fair.
Rock and Resource Fair, yes, absolutely. Well, I want to give a little bit of...
And there's the flyer.
Oh, wonderful. Great. I want to give a little bit of history behind why we're doing this. And Malaysia has already done one. Ooh. And I'm excited about that. It went beautifully. But I'm sure if you can remember that in the 1st of April, when, you know, usually the Autism Speaks Walk in April is our biggest event, okay? And because it was my first open arms embrace to support. I mean, I am forever devoted to them, listen, forever. But when I got wind that they were charging for this event, oh, my heart broke, because let me tell you, talk about creating communities. That's what we do, and why I created my own nonprofit, My Brother Rocks the Spectrum, to give scholarships for people who, I mean, we scholarship people not just in We Rock. I sent a kiddo to Camp Fun Time, you know, who's dying to go there this, you know, this summer. We give, you know, clothes to kiddos, gift cards for Ralph's. I mean, it's all about paying it forward. Yeah. So when I heard that, I just couldn't in my own heart and soul, I could not participate in that. And it was a big, big loss for me because we are big sponsors for that, every single walk. So I decided to, let the public know, and I wrote a blog and didn't realize that it was going to have such a huge impact. Let's face it, I could have had a big kickback. Autism Speaks, understood that I can't support this walk. All the ones across the states, if they're complimentary, my gyms will continue, and we will continue as a company to support what you do, but not to charge, no.
Not for a resource fair.
No, absolutely not.
I mean, I understand wanting to charge for admission for a walk. Mm-hmm. I mean, I understand you're having a fundraiser, but when it's a resource fair, where the whole thing is about, and our topic for this week was about finding resources and how vital that is.
Absolutely.
When it's, and what that walk has meant to so many of us for so many years, to go and see that sea of people and all those booths that they could go to and get every single piece of information that you would need for a year. It was a miracle, and it was something we would always hold up on the show and say, everybody should have something like this, and more resource fairs were happening. And I understand when you say, you got to register and pay for a fundraiser for a walk. I get that. But when we were told that if you didn't register and pay the $40, you couldn't get into the resource fair.
Oh my God, my heart.
We also did not go.
Yeah.
And it was
with
tears.
Didn't?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
We have been a media sponsor of that event, and and I have personally have not missed a walk since my son was diagnosed, and even one where I almost literally had to crawl to it because I was ill, and I was like, I'm not missing this. This has been our litmus test. So we did not participate either because I couldn't. I couldn't. Information should be free. It's why Autism Live is free. Information needs to be free. It's a line for me. I mean, I guess there are gradations of it. I mean, when people do a book, they sell a book, that's different to me.
It's different. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why my opinion, why I had to carry it out there to the community, was it's always been free.
Yes.
Okay, so if it started out that they were charging, then that's something different. But you can't change that. You can't change to where there's going to be 150 resources to 40 because now you have to pay $1,500 for a booth. Yeah. So for me, I had a difficult time with that alone, but I thought, okay, you know what? I am, and I still am devoted to them. I'm devoted to any organization that creates awareness.
I am too.
But I was very angry because I did not find out until we had committed. But I pulled out of of my sponsorship and of the walk, and there was a lot of mourning in my family. And Gabriel was like, "But mommy, my name on the back of the shirt, and us walking for autism, but you told me." And I had to try and explain to my son with autism. My daughter understood. She understands what it means that there's so many families who can't afford therapies, let alone $40 per child.
$40 per person.
Oh my gosh.
There were so many times for us that $40 for one of us would have made that cost prohibitive in the early years of autism. I just didn't have it. But to pay $40 per person for a family, the teams that I have interviewed that have been there that have 32 people, I was totally with you on this.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. My media team, they said, look, I don't know what the kickback is going to be. Dina, you might have. And I said, if it's negative, it's negative. But you know what? At least the world and the community is going to know who I am and who the brand We Rock the Spectrum is and what we stand for and what our mission is, and that this resource fair has always been free and should remain to be free. So I wrote my blog about that, and I spoke to the community. Almost 20,000 people read it. I had no idea. The emails were pouring in, people who were just crying, and oh my gosh, can you help? Can you maybe email and call them, and maybe they'll change it? And obviously that didn't happen.
It didn't
of course.
change.
It didn't change. So what I wrote in my blog was to be continued.
Yeah.
Keep around. We're gonna, come up with something. Obviously, it was already April, so we couldn't do a walk because in the summer it's very, very hot, as you know. But what we are announcing today is July 16th is our first Rock and Resource Fair.
Love it.
I'm very, very excited. Yes, we rented Woodley Park. We're gonna have at minimum 35 vendors. We are gonna have oh my gosh, we have a sensory zone, we have a music zone, we have an arts and crafts zone, we have a food zone, we have a calming zone. It is huge, okay? It is as big as the Rose Bowl, okay, this event we're doing. You know me, I don't know how to do things small.
I know.
That's just not who I am. But what's amazing is, and what I've never seen, okay, Shannon, is you always see events that are sponsoring only one organization.
Yes.
So I went to my team and I said, I want to do something different. They're like, oh God, Dina, we're ready.
I can imagine how your team takes that.
I said, I want to sponsor 5 different nonprofits that I believe in and I support. So, as you know, or maybe you don't, well, I know one that you're affiliated with and on the board, which is Act Now, right?
Act Today.
Excuse me, Act Today.
Yeah.
Which I know you do amazing work with Nancy, and I'm so excited to have you guys there.
And I think that we're really honored and thrilled and feel very privileged that it will benefit. And I know how much that means to those families.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, that's grants for things that families ask for. So thank you for including them.
Of course. Well, I am devoted to you for life.
Well.
We have Taka, who's coming on board.
Amazing.
We have Autism Society. And then, of course, you know, Northridge, which is the special... Cal State Northridge.
Oh, yes.
The special needs resource.
Yeah. And of course,
am I saying it wrong?
No, you're saying it right.
Okay, their special needs resource.
Yes.
At CSUN, their program. Teresa Corey is phenomenal, and she's going to go.
Yes.
You drew a blank on our nonprofit, but
no.
We're supporting them as well, and the Special Olympics.
Wonderful.
You know, I'm working with Sasha Spalding. I'll tell you, and I missed her from Autism Speaks, and now working with her on this event. She was tremendous. Came in the office. Lisa Ackerman, the founder of Taka, speaking with Nancy and you the other day. And Matt Asner through Autism Society.
It's a great team of people.
It's a great team of people. And I have to tell you something, and you know this. I had my moment where I went, I said to Austin, who's my marketing director, I go, either we've made it big or they think that we're bigger than we are. Because all these people were emailing and saying we want to be a part of it. And you guys are my mentors. I've idoled you guys in these organizations, and I am honored to be walking now alongside of you, with you.
That's
I'm going to start crying, but I really had that moment right before Stephanie's day, and I went, is this really for real? All the emails coming in when we launched social media about our event, we already have almost 500 people registered.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be huge.
But I don't think you realize, though, that you are a leader and that a lot of us are following you. There's a theater exercise that's called the flock of birds. And it's a mirror, but what it is that the leader changes from time to time, and that there are times in the exercise when you're doing your own thing and you don't realize how many people are following you. And I think that's true of you right now. I think maybe what this has brought to light for you is that a lot of us are following you. That, you did something and you're carrying it through and you're being successful. There's a whole lot of people who want to do things and can't quite make it happen. And that's not you. No one would ever describe you as being that. So a lot of us are following you, Dina. And the fact that you didn't know it is not shocking or surprising or whatever, but now it's coming to light. And you've put together an amazing event, and you've put together amazing people. And here's what I know about you. Your heart is always right. And when your heart is right, it attracts. It's a light.
I believe that. I believe that of anybody. But I guess for myself, I've just been so focused on doing what I can do for different communities in different states and now in different countries. And then, of course, knowing that our Los Angeles and San Bernardino, Orange County community deserve a huge, amazing event.
Thank you.
I mean, the food's going to be, this is something that's never been at an event. The food's even donated.
Aww.
We have food donated. We have water slides. We have a calming room that's going to have bean bags and fun sensory play. The arts and crafts area is going to be amazing. And the music, we're going to have kid bands there. Oh my gosh. I get chills. I mean, it's 100 degrees outside and I get chills. But yes, that's the key thing. It's free. It's free, and the first 100 people that come in, we're giving them a t-shirt, and whatever proceeds we do raise, what's great is that it's being distributed to all 5 of these different nonprofits.
Which is amazing.
Which I'm excited about. I'm excited that we can pay it forward, not just to one organization, but to 5 different ones, and have them all be together as one doing the same thing.
But again, it's smart and it's the right thing, which is what you're known for, quite honestly. And if you look there, you see, I love this, celebrating inclusion for everyone, and it's free for all. It's happening on the 16th of July, which is a Sunday. And tell us exactly where the location is.
So it's Woodley Park. There's Woodley Park has, Woodley 1 and Woodley 2. It's Woodley 1, and it's got all the trees and beautiful shade, which we're going to have, air conditioning is running. Everyone's wanting to donate. That's what's so great. Everyone's wanting to participate. I never thought we would have the food donated. I mean, at these walks, like for AS, they would have like the Grand Club. People who, raised a certain amount of monies, right? They got access to that complimentary food. No, this is complimentary food to everyone.
Amazing.
So it's going to be phenomenal. People are wanting to donate the tents and, like I said, the water slides, their time. I mean, to have, like I said, the Matt Asners, the Sasha, Spaldings, the Lisa Ackermans, you yourself with Nancy, wanting to be part of this event, I'm honored. I know it's going to be tremendous.
Of course, everybody wants to be a part of it. And so what are the hours for the event?
So the hours are from 12 to 5.
12 to 5,
Yeah.
okay. And, bring your entire family.
Exactly.
This isn't about, just bring your kiddo on the spectrum, but definitely do that. But bring your entire family. And when I say your entire family, I mean bring the aunt who never seems to understand what autism means and shows up to Thanksgiving and goes, why aren't you having him do whatever? Bring that aunt. Make her come with you.
You just nailed it, because speaking of that, we actually are going to have, people talking about, the ABCs of autism and those 10 things, I love that book, that 10 things that every, child wishes that we as parents knew what was going on inside them. We're going to be talking about that to the public about that. It's going to be a Q&A. We're going to have therapists there. We also have a couple wonderful corporate sponsors. Valerie Vanneman was just amazing, who has been my son's attorney, was the first to shout out and go, Dina, I'm there. I want to be, one of your corporate sponsors. And we have a couple of others that, want to remain anonymous. And we're just, we're so grateful. Banks that are reaching out, what can we do, who have heard about Re-Rock, but then knowing that this is an opportunity where they can be involved. And again, bring the communities together. Okay, I'm a firm believer that Gabriel, our son, is doing as well as he's doing is because we've never segregated him. He's always been in a full inclusion mainstream program with his companion. That is why he is the light that he is. The light, exactly. The little, he and his sister, both the little autism whisperers. Now he's helping kids in the gym. He's going in there and helping to be the voice for these other children. And again, having my 9-year-old with autism and my almost 13-year-old now be advocates themselves. I mean, I'm in awe. I'm in awe of them. I'm in awe, and like I said, it's hard to not get emotional, but I had an owner reach out to me yesterday, Sharon, and I'll tell you, she's been an owner for 3 weeks. And she said, I don't know how I haven't already been doing this. I was born to do this. Thank you so much. Already the families and communities that we're building. They're signing up for another location. They just opened up 3 weeks ago. Listen, it's not easy being a business owner, let alone of a Re-Rock or any business. There are people who try and open up Re-Rocks and it's difficult for them. And then there's the families where they have special needs children and neurotypical, and it fits, and they do the work, and they engage the community, the doctors, the different mommy groups. They bring it all together in one, and that is what this is about.
It's amazing. So before we run out of time, we got to talk about how people can get more information about a variety of different things. If you want to know about, is there a We Rock the Spectrum gym in your area, where should they go? Because I know you have different sites and then you have a main site. Where should they go look?
Our main site is www.wrtsfranchise.com.
And WRTS, which rolls trippingly off of your tongue and no one else's, stands for We Rock the Spectrum. So if you forget, which letters was it? You just have to remember We Rock the Spectrum.
WRTS. Or if you go to rerockthespectrum.com, it also brings you to the site, which is the main site for Tarzan. But also, again, I believe in unity. All of the gyms have their own websites.
Yes.
Again, I feel like that unites us as one. And we all market for each other. They each have a location page. and they show what's coming soon in different countries in the US of A. And they've also the events. Hit the events page and register for the walk, okay? Because we
Yes.
want to be able to give out as many things, for free as possible.
There you go.
Shirts, we're having raffles. So many people, like I said, are wanting to reach out. I love it.
Okay, I didn't realize that people should register, so we haven't been telling people that. Register, and you do that on that page? Okay, and then for those of you who are at a point in your life where you're like, my job isn't working, my life isn't working, I need to be able to spend more time with my kiddos working on things that they need to work on for autism. This sounds like a fit for me, and that you're like me and go, okay, I could own a gym. Where do they go to find out about start doing a franchise?
The same site I told you about.
Okay.
WRTS
So everything
franchise.
is there. And you've
Everything
got all
is
the
there.
locations and
Absolutely.
everything. Okay. So that's the hub for everything, and you can register if you're in the Los Angeles area. If you're not in the Los Angeles area but you're close, I would say that this is an event that's worth making a little bit of a trek for.
Absolutely.
Because you're going to meet people. And the reason why I was saying, bring the aunts and stuff, I think it's great that you're going to have speakers there, and that's really beneficial. But I think there is nothing like seeing. Seeing is believing. And when they get to see a bunch of individuals who are on the autism spectrum with a bunch of people who aren't, and everybody is happy, and you can't really pick out who, I think it enlightens people's minds in a way that we need to get to. And where else are you going to find that? So definitely where you've got to go.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, the volunteers are lining up. Half of our volunteers, our adult volunteers, are all on the spectrum. That's not something else that you and I have spoken greatly about, and that's that we employ, young adults and teenagers on the spectrum. And they're all excited. They're like, oh my gosh, so you're having your own event? And, listen, I've always supported other people's. Of course, I love having events myself. I'm not going to lie to you. This is fun. This is fun.
Well, I'm not going to lie to you either. I think that for all of us, it feels like a sigh, because I know that you're going to do this and you're going to do this right, and it's going to make sense. And that I know because of who you are, everybody's going to be included, and it's not going to be, oh, well, are you on the outs, or can you afford it, or, everybody's going to be included. I think everybody's just like, oh, that's exciting, because we know it will be done well.
Thank you.
You go hand in hand with that. It's not going to be fly by night. If I was doing a resource fair, we would all be afraid. But if Dina is, no, it's too many moving parts. I'm not good at that. But Dina is doing it. We know it's going to be done right. And I can't imagine a better group of people to get together to do it. It's a really an amazing thing.
We're excited.
Well, we're excited about it too. So that's on the 16th. Dubai is happening in September, and you've been continuing to open. We did like 6 months ago. We took 1 hour and said we're gonna rock around the world.
That's right.
And we went to 5 different locations via Skype to kind of check in and see. But since then, when I went to meet with you last week, you had just somebody had just come back from Seattle, opening one in Seattle. Any other places that you want to shout out that you're about to open?
This weekend, our first in the state of Illinois. We're so excited, and that's the Range family. And I want to do a shout out to you guys.
Okay.
Good luck this weekend.
And where?
In Edwardsville.
Edwardsville, okay.
Yes,
and where is that?
amazing.
Because I'm not geographically, I'm challenged. Picturing
it's
Illinois.
It's about. I know it's about 20 minutes from the St. Louis airport.
On the spot. There we go. Okay. But go to the site. Go to I can't even
WRTS.
say WRTS. I'd have to.
Or just werockthespectrum.com.
And there we go. So werockthespectrum.com. I'll say that because that I can remember. And check out the locations and see where it is that's close to you.
Absolutely.
Go.
Well, you know where we just opened actually last weekend,
Where?
Also was Vegas. We finally opened up Vegas, baby. Yes, Vegas just opened up in Henderson.
Oh my gosh.
That was tremendous too.
Wow. And so people can, if they want to go and gamble, can they bring their kids and check them into the
drop off at We Rock the Spectrum in Vegas
gosh.
and go gamble and have fun. Yeah. It's time. They needed it.
When you think about all the different services that you provide to families, you really are the answer to every question.
Oh gosh. I don't know about that,
right?
but all I know is it's an opportunity for people to have a life like the people who don't have special needs kids. That's the whole thing. We all deserve what each other has, which is a date with your husband, which is time to, you know, be the best parent you can be, which requires nurturing yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the most important.
Well, and I have to say too, Dina was so kind to invite me. I'm still not sure why, but you invited me when you had your big year-end thing with all of your owners.
My owners.
You had a big weekend with all of them, and then you had a big dinner, and you invited me.
Why would I not invite you?
Well, because I'm not one of your owners. But anyway, I got to come. And it was amazing. You know how to throw a party. And can I just tell you, like, you can tell when somebody's doing something right because we're a whole bunch of people who were talking really nice things behind your back. That was my experience all night long. Like, you know, you could go a lot of other places and, you know, you got a lot of different people that have a lot of different viewpoints and whatever, and it wouldn't have shocked me if there were a couple of people who were like, well, you know, this or whatever. People say nice things about you behind your back. You should know that.
Thank you.
So I want to tell everybody, be at this wonderful Rock and Resource Fair, July 16th. But in the meantime, check out, it's hot. And your kids need to get their yayas out, and they need to get them out safely, and there's no better place to do, and you don't have to stay there the whole time. You could leave them and go get your nails done, something I don't know about. But you could do that because its time has come. We want to thank you so much for being here.
It's always a pleasure.
I adore you.
And Rebecca,
she's amazing, isn't she? We want to thank all of our guests today, and really amazing women. We had Vinay Hartshorn giving you tips about classroom and how to make the most out of it. Bonnie Yates and her advice, and Dina. Now I've told you guys that we are not here next week. I'm doing a speaking tour up in Northern California, going to be in the San Francisco area at a bunch of different card offices. If you're looking for me, I'll be there. We're going to do some things from the road. Jem's going with me. He's going to do a little speaking too. And then we are back, not the day after 4th of July, the day, so the 6th, we are back with an amazing guest. We're going to be back here with Dave Humphrey from Kirkman Labs with some information that you are not going to want to miss. And we also have Alex Plank on that day. So you've got to come back with us on the 6th. And of course, Bonnie Yates will be here answering more of your questions. So until then, you'll hear from me on the road, but have a happy, safe 4th of July. Give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.